All right, folks. So, welcome to my very first episode of This Weekend in Sports. We're going to do this every week now. We're going to talk about everything here. We're going to talk about the NFL this weekend. We're going to talk about college football this weekend. We're going to talk about MLB, and we'll talk about the WNBA playoffs as well this weekend. So, I'm going to start off right now. I'm going to share the screen out here. We're going to talk about college football first. All right, so let's talk about the previous weekend in college football. And I'll do a video later in the week to preview the games coming up and predictions and all of that kind of stuff, and the top 25 coming up later in the week. But today, just quickly, let's talk about the games this weekend. We'll start off with Friday night, top 25 action. We'll talk about Utah lost at home to Arizona State. They're 4-2. Arizona State's 5-1. They may be ranked now. I haven't looked at the poll, but 5-1, they're off to a good start. Utah, Cam Rising struggled mightily in his return. He missed some weeks, but he was brutal in his return. 16 out of 37, 209 yards, and 3 interceptions. So, tough night for Cam Rising Friday night. Utah suffered a big loss. May or may not be ranked. We'll look at later in the week. The top 25, we'll find out if they're ranked, but that was a tough loss. And they've lost 2 games now, so not good for Utah. So let's go to Saturday, and we'll start off Saturday with the Red River rivalry, Texas and Oklahoma. Funny thing is, I picked Oklahoma just because it's been chaos the previous weeks. I had no reason to think that Oklahoma was going to beat Texas. It's funny because Oklahoma's really flipped the script. They were a team for years known for their offense and not a lot of defense. They're a team now that's known for their defense and no offense. Though they gave up 34 points in a 34-3 defeat to Texas, 21 of those were in the second quarter. Their defense has been pretty good all year. They have a defensive-minded coach, but their offense is abysmal. Texas, they just keep rolling, man. They look like the best team in the country. It's too early right now to sit back and say for sure, but they look like the best team in the country. They're number 1. They got a big date with Georgia coming up. We'll talk about that in the future. Number 2 versus number 3. What a monster game. Saturday night, Ohio State Buckeyes lose on the road to Oregon. Not a huge surprise. Oregon's tough to beat at home in Autzen Stadium. That place is packed out. Gabriel, the quarterback for Oregon, he's excellent. He had 341 yards, 2 touchdowns, man. He's so good. Running back James, 115 yards on the ground. Just a really good football game, 32-31. I think if those teams meet again in the Big 12 title game, I like the Buckeyes to get payback, but man, evenly matched 2 really good football teams. Those 2 teams will definitely be in the playoffs. You could put them in Texas in ink, not pencil. You could put them in ink for the college football playoff. About number 4, Penn State. What a great game. Overtime, beating USC 33-30. Last-ditch effort for the Trojans. Get back in the top 25, have a chance at the playoff. They're 3-3 now, man. They got that big win over LSU, or they would be 2-4. They're practically done right now in terms of playoffs, because I don't think anyone's losing 3 games and getting in. They're 3-3 if they win all the way out, and they're 1-3 in the Big Ten, so they're not going to get to the Big Ten championship. So literally, they're done in terms of playoffs. A little disappointment after you've seen them play that game against LSU. You thought they had a lot more coming with Woody Marks and Mississippi State running hard. He had 111 yards in this game. Then you got a really good quarterback in Miller Moss. He hasn't played great. How about the quarterback for Penn State? He had 391 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nittany Lions trailed this game a lot. They trailed this game at the half 20-6. Staged 14-3 in the third quarter, 10-7 in the fourth quarter to take it to overtime and got the victory. Hats off to the Nittany Lions. They're 6-0 for the second year in a row. Penn State's usually always good, but they can't find a way to break through. So we'll see if this is the year they can break through. But as I previously stated, I think Oregon and Ohio State's the 2 best teams in the Big Ten. Next game, Georgia. I'm so not impressed. They're number 5 coming in. This is a 10-point win. It's an SEC win. But Mississippi State, there's 2 teams in the SEC that I would consider to be pure and utter garbage. And there's Mississippi State and Auburn. I think everyone in the SEC can play except those 2 teams. Mississippi State, when they got blown out by Toledo, it told me all I needed to know about Mississippi State. They're trash. They put up 31 points on Georgia, 41-31. I'm not impressed in any way. Yeah, Carson Beck had 459 yards and 3 touchdowns, but your defense has to do better. It's Mississippi State, for God's sake. I expect that game to be 41-10, not 41-31. Mississippi State to put up those kind of points. I'm not impressed. I'm not picking you over Texas, and I know I'm ahead of myself because I'll talk about that game later. I don't know if you're looking ahead and defensively you had your game plan and all ready for Texas, but I mean that's not impressive. How about Alabama surviving the game against South Carolina? They probably should have lost. I thought Bama would have came out fired up and would have smashed South Carolina at home after the Vanderbilt game, but they didn't. 27-25, they literally survived that game against South Carolina. Not a pretty performance. They have a lot of tough games coming up. If you're a Bama fan, you're hoping that they overlook that game and that they'll get it together because they need to. Defense has not been great all year. Defense played well at times today, but that's not the standard. A 2-point win at home against South Carolina is definitely not the Alabama standard. Number 8, Tennessee, 23-17 win over the Gators. I thought the Gators played well. Graham Marsh, their quarterback, is out for the year. Got to go with the freshman DJ Lagway. I thought he did enough. Kept him in the game, gave him a chance to win. The better team won. Tennessee offensively started the season so great. They hit a hiccup right now. They don't look great offensively. So we'll see if Tennessee can get it together for the stretch run and make the playoffs. They're happy to get the win. They have a history of losing to the Gators, so just beating the Gators is a good thing. I think they lost 17 out of 19. Don't quote me, I might be wrong, but I think they lost 17 out of 19 to the Gators. So just a win over the Gators, even in overtime in ugly fashion, I'm sure they're happy to take it. How about probably the game of the day, the Bayou Bengals from LSU, a game I had a chance to be at. Unfortunately, I wasn't because of work, but I'm so disappointed I didn't call in and go to this game. 29-26, LSU beat Ole Miss. What a great football game. Ole Miss had a lot of opportunities that he let slip through their hands. I thought this was a game that Ole Miss could have won, but made some mistakes, kept the Tigers around. Nussmeier was not great in this game, but you know what, Garrett Nussmeier, you made the big throws when you had to. 22 out of 51 is not pretty. 337 yards is nice, and 3 touchdowns and 2 huge touchdowns. One to send the game to overtime and one to win the game. Give Nussmeier a lot of props for that. It's a lot of things he needs to work on. Tigers, a lot of tough games coming up, so hopefully the Tigers can make that run towards the playoffs. Ole Miss, I think you're in trouble right now. You got 2 losses. You got to run the table. You got to run the table, and you got to get a little help in getting the SEC championship game. And if you can pull that off, you can get into the playoff. But I am not feeling good about Ole Miss chances right now. But the Tigers, pretty good shape, man. Just got to keep going. A lot of tough games coming up. Clemson, number 10, playing Wake Forest, unranked, easy win, 49-14, 42 points in the second and third quarter. Cade Klubnik, who I've been very critical of, he's looked good this season outside of the Georgia game. Another 300-plus yard game, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns. Give that man his props. Dabo and the guys, they're playing well ever since the Georgia game. Stanford, Notre Dame. Notre Dame's number 11. They get an easy win over a bad Stanford team. Stanford Stanford led 7-0, and Notre Dame scored the last 49. Riley Leonard, he's getting it together. 229 yards, 3 touchdowns. Nice win for the Irish. Big win against a bad team. You beat them the way you're supposed to beat them. Iowa State, number 11, also with Notre Dame, tied. They won 28-16 on the road. It's always tough to win on the road in conference against a West Virginia team that's pretty good. They're 3-3. They're not horrible. So you go on the road, you get the victory 28-16. So you get out of there and you keep your playoff hopes alive. You're legit. You're 6-0 right now, 3-0 in conference. You just want to keep it going. If you're Iowa State, you're probably not a team that can really afford to lose 2 games and make the playoffs unless you can win that conference, which you might be able to somehow win that conference in that situation. But you probably got room to lose 1 game at the most, and you better not let that 1 game be the conference championship. Arizona, 19 points. They give up 41 to number 14, BYU. BYU's also in that Big 12 conference. They're also 3-0, just like Iowa State. So, yeah, there's some teams right there is going to be really interesting down the stretch. 41-19 victory, good win for Brigham Young. They started off slow, trailed 7-0 early, end up winning big. So we'll see if BYU can, like Iowa State, make that run and be in that playoff. Anything could happen from that point. Number 17, Boise State, 28-17 victory. They got one of the best running backs in the country. They're a good football team, man. He had 217 yards on 31 carries and a touchdown. That man is putting himself right there in that race for the Heisman Trophy. Aston is 331 carries, like I said, 217 and 2 touchdowns. What a game. Boise State 5-1, 2-0 in the Mountain West, and 1 loss to a highly ranked Oregon team. They're right there in the mix. You know, a group of 5 teams going to get in that playoff. Why not Boise State and the Smurf turf? Kansas State 31-28 win over prime time. Deion and Shedeur Sanders. That was a really good football game. Got the big touchdown at the end. Colorado came back to take the lead with 14 points in the fourth quarter. Travis Hunter got hurt in that game, unfortunately. Also, their number 2 receiver, Horn, he got hurt in that game as well. So they're playing with one hand tied behind their back, came back and took the lead. Shedeur was great. 34-40, 388 yards and 3 touchdowns, but just not enough to get the victory. And played tough, man. Miller had 145 yards receiving, stepping up for the top 2 receivers being hurt. But Kansas State, man, 182 yards for Giddens, the running back, on 25 carries. K-State's 5-1. They're also in the mix, man. I can't wait to see how this Big 12 season ends and see what happens down the stretch. Missouri 45-3 over Massachusetts. Cost me $530 freaking dollars in a parlay because I needed this game to go over 54.5. It went to 48. So if Massachusetts could have found a way to score a touchdown and Missouri could have found a way to score another touchdown in the fourth quarter, because they didn't score in the fourth quarter, I could have won $530. So I'm a little bit pissed about this game. Pittsburgh wins 17-15, first bad game of the year for Eli Holstein. Did not look good in this game, but Pitt still came through, found a way to win. Number 22 in the country, they're 6-0, 2-0 in the ACC. They'll probably be moving up a little bit because some people did pick Cal, despite the fact that Cal's 0-3 in the ACC and 3-3 overall. What a game right here. What a wild game. Purdue only 1-5, 0-3 in the Big Ten. They gave everything to Illinois, forcing overtime. But the fighting Professor Walters and the Illinois Illini find a way to win 50-49. Good football game here, really good football game. I did not expect as many points in this game, but Illinois found a way to get it done in overtime, in a game that probably should have never went to overtime, but they gave up 23 fourth quarter points to a bad Purdue team. All right, so I'm going to shift gears here, and I'm going to go to the WNBA here. We're going to talk about the WNBA finals right here. The New York Liberty, they've been the best team all year in the WNBA. They have a game coming up tomorrow night against the Minnesota Lynx. The Lynx right now in the series is tied at 1-1. So it's going to be a very interesting matchup here. Like I said, the Liberty has been the best team all year, 32-8. The Lynx are not far behind them at 30-10. So you really got the 2 best teams in the sport. Connecticut was really good too. So have some top-notch teams right here in the sport dueling right here. The Liberty won game 3, which game 2, 80-66 to get themselves back in the series, as they started off a little bit on the slow side, as they actually lost game 1 at home. So they had to bounce back and get the victory here. So kind of look at some stats right here from the series, because I can't say I've been following it all that closely. I think a lot of people haven't really been following the WNBA as much since, of course, the Golden Girl got eliminated in the first round, Indiana Fever. They had a nice year, but Caitlin Clark, she's obviously the star, rookie of the year, and deserve it. But if you look at the New York Liberty here, now obviously they have 2 superstars on their team, 2 of the best players in the WNBA on the New York Liberty, which is partially why they had the amazing season that they had. And we're talking about Breanna Stewart and we're talking about Sabrina Ionescu, who both averaged nearly 20 points a game. Excuse me, I'm still on the wrong statistics right here. I'm trying to look at the statistics for the 2 teams, and somehow I ended up on the the league stats. But going in this game, the Liberty's a 1.5-point favorite in Minnesota. So I think they split these two games and they go to a game 5. And I think the Liberty takes this game. I think the Liberty has been slightly better all year. I think they find a way to win. They're 32-8 on the season. Interesting spread, though. I see the sportsbook line right here is saying 3 points. I just saw 1.5, so a little bit confused on that one. No noted injuries in this series, in this game. So, yeah, you got to look at Breanna Stewart. You got to look at Sabrina Ionescu. Those are the stars right here. So I want to flip to the other side a little bit to Minnesota, since I'm giving all this props and talking about the two stars there. So when you look at this thing's just giving me a hard time here, folks. I'm not editing this either, so we'll just be a little bit behind here. I'm trying to go to the Minnesota Lynx statistics. Somehow it keeps giving me to the Liberty. All right, so now we're looking at the Minnesota Lynx statistics, and we obviously know Napheesa Collier. She's been great this year, 25.2 points a game, one of the leading scorers in the entire league. Courtney Williams, Kayla McBride. There's some really good players on that side for Minnesota. But Minnesota coming in a slight underdog, but great season. I think this is going to be a good, really good game. So if you're not one of those casuals who only watch the WNBA, which I admit I'm kind of one of those casuals that only watch the WNBA to see Caitlin Clark and to see Angel Reese and, you know, all of those, or Asia Wilson with Vegas, because Asia Wilson is the best player in the league and she's going to get an MVP, well-deserved. You're not one of those casuals. If you just want to see a good game, I think this is going to be a really good basketball game, really great finish to this season. New York's a team that think they're going to win the championship. They've been the best team all year. I'm rooting for them at this point. I'd like to see the best team take it. So we're going to go to MLB right now. I haven't really been following it too much because my Tampa Bay Rays are not in the playoffs. Unfortunately, we had the definition of a mediocre season. How about the Yankees last night? We'll start with that game against the Cleveland Guardians. The Yankees, they won that game last night 5-2. Juan Soto, big home run. Judge has been struggling in the postseason, but he had a couple big hits, scored a run, did some good things last night for the Yankees. He was great in the regular season struggle. Man, I did not even realize Alex Cobb was pitching in the postseason or even pitching for the Guardians. He was a guy with my Tampa Bay Rays that if we had a lot of promise for him, we thought he'd be great. You know, the Rays ship guys off when it's time to pay them, but that's a story for another day because we don't pay in St. Pete. But and we'll say big prayers to the people in St. Pete, Tampa, Bay Area. Obviously, we know about the roof blowing off of Tropicana Field. Unfortunately, hopefully they get that fixed in time for the season. But prayers out to all the people out there who've lost their home and more than their home, to say that. But the Yankees 5-2 win last night, 1-0 lead. I think this is going to be a long series. I don't think this is a series the Yankees are just going to roll their hats out there and smash the Cleveland Guardians. Guardians won 92 games. Yankees won 94 games. These are two good teams. It's a long season in baseball, as we all know. So we'll look at the scoring last night. Well, the Yankees pitcher Rodon, he pitched 6 innings. Cobb only went 2.2 innings for the Cleveland Guardians. He got a quick hook. He gave up five hits, 3 runs, 3 all earned runs, and of course gave up that home run to Soto. Yankees pitcher Rodon, he pitched. He gave up 3 hits, 1 run, 1 earned run, and had 9 strikeouts. It's always a good day when you can get 9 strikeouts. Soto hit the home run to center field, gave the Yankees the early lead. Judge scored on a run, on a wild pitch. They went up 3-0. Stanton scored a run. I mean, they were up 4-0. As a matter of fact, Judge hit a sacrifice before the Cleveland Guardians finally got on the board, so they were never really a threat in that game. So 1-0 in that game. They'll play tonight, so they're the only game tonight because there's going to be a day off before a travel day to New York for the Mets and the Dodgers. The Mets won 7-3 last night. Give a lot of props to the Mets. They go out on the road and split 2 games. The starting pitcher, he went 5 innings, gave up 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. Good win on the road against the Dodgers. Lindor homered early in that game. Taylor had a double and scored a run. So yeah, they went up 6-0 in this game. They even hit a grand slam right here in the second inning. So they jumped ahead big. The Dodgers tried to rally. They got it to within 6-3, but that wasn't enough, obviously, because Marte singled and scored the polar bear and added another run and made it 7-3 in the ninth inning, and that was enough to hold on. They out hit the Dodgers 10-5. The series is 1-1, so it's going to go to New York. So we'll see what happens at that point. So good series going on there. I think both of these series have potential to go long. Really good series. So let's go to the NFL. Had an interesting weekend in the NFL. Started off Thursday night with the 49ers 36-24 with Seattle. We knew the 49ers have not been playing good. We knew they would be ready for this game and take over the NFC West, even though they're tied with Seattle, but clearly they're the best team. They've had injuries. Big game for them to go out on the road in that environment and take care of business. Sunday morning in London, Chicago Bears hammered Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. Man, Trevor, you're making $56 million. You got to do better. You got to do better. Caleb Williams, 4 touchdowns. He's getting better and better. Bears are 4-2. They're in a brutal division, so we'll see if they can keep it going. That division's so good. We'll go to the 1 o'clock window on the East Coast. The Green Bay Packers 34-13 over the Cardinals. You never know what to expect out of the Cardinals. They're good one week. They suck the next week. They're 2-4 on the year. Jordan Love, 258 yards, 4 touchdowns. Big game for him. Jacobs had 62 yards on the ground. And it was pretty dominant fashion. 3 touchdown win for Green Bay. Indianapolis wins an ugly game. 2 teams that aren't very good against Tennessee on the road, 20-17. Joe Flacco, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns. I just saw a statistic today saying Joe Flacco's the first quarterback in X amount of years to be over 38 years old and have 2 touchdowns in 8 straight games. Give that man his props. I thought he was done when I watched him play the Jets. I really thought he was done, but he's gotten really good the last 2 years at 38 years old. Houston Texans 41-21 win over New England. Not a big surprise there. Big news, Drake May for New England. He threw for 243 and 3 touchdowns. A lot of them were, when the Texans were up pretty big and they were playing a little soft, but give him props, man. He threw 3 touchdowns in his debut game. Jacoby Brissett only had 2 touchdowns the entire season through 5 games. So give that man his props. All right, New Orleans Saints, Tampa Bay. Very weird game here. Saints got off trailing 17-0. They put up all 27 points in the second quarter. Spencer Rattler looked good in his first game, in the first half, in that quarter at least. Saints had some big plays. Tampa Bay did not look great. Baker Mayfield had 3 interceptions, but he also had 325 yards and 4 touchdown passes. And at the end of the day, Baker Mayfield and his team, fourth quarter, they dominated. They outscored New Orleans 20-0 in the Caesar Superdome. Saints defense played like it quit. Philadelphia 20-16 win over Cleveland. Not very impressive, but a victory nonetheless, and they needed it to get to 3-2. Nick Sirianni being stupid and talking trash to the fans and all of this crap, but no, win's a win. They're 3-2, and Deshaun Watson continues to look like garbage, and Cleveland continues to lose. Baltimore 30-23 in a very good game between Lamar Jackson and a guy that people are calling Lamar Jackson Light. So, yeah, Jaden Daniels has looked really good as a rookie. He played well. A lot of compliments from Lamar Jackson, who is the model of consistency, 323 yards and a touchdown. King Henry, 132 yards, a pair of touchdowns on the ground. Zay Flowers caught 9 balls for 132 yards, and pretty much an easy victory. Well, I'm not going to say an easy victory, but they did have to work for it. But Baltimore definitely looked like the better team. Both teams 4-2 on the season. And I think both teams, we're going to see both in the playoffs, in my opinion. Jaden Daniels stays healthy. Man, he's good. Chargers beat the Broncos 23-16 in a game in which they lead 23-0 at the end of the third quarter. Broncos come back a little bit in the fourth quarter. Bo Nix played well in the fourth quarter after just totally no-showing the first three quarters. Harbaugh had a situation where he had a health scare and he had to sit out at the end of the first quarter, but he was healthy enough to come back, fortunately. Chargers 3-2, Broncos 3-3. They played Thursday night against the Saints. I will be at that game, and I'll have to send you a vlog on here from that game, at least a short. Pittsburgh Steelers 4-2 after the victory. They beat down Aiden O'Connell in his first start back with the Raiders. Raiders 2-4. O'Connell was 27 of 42, 27 his first start back. So still got a good tight end in Brock Bowers. He caught 9 balls for 71 yards. Najee Harris had 106 yards for the Steelers. Justin Fields, rumors is he might have been his last start because Russell Wilson may actually start this week, but we'll find that out later in the week when we talk about it. Detroit Lions humiliate Jerry Jones and the Cowboys 47-9. Jerry, you paid Dak $60 million, and I'm not putting it all on Dak. You need a better run game and a better offensive line. Dak's not good enough to carry your team, which you're paying him $60 million, so he should be good enough to carry your team, but he's not. So you got to do better. CeeDee Lamb had 89 yards receiving, not even close to enough. Jared Goff, 315, 3 touchdowns, and the Lions tried to be a little bit petty and force a touchdown to an offensive lineman after we know the situation last year in Detroit and Dallas against the Lions. This year, they were like, yeah, we're going to force a touchdown to a lineman. Unfortunately for Dan Campbell, that didn't work out, but everything else worked out for Dan Campbell as they embarrassed them boys. How about the Falcons? Kirk O'Chains, not as big a game this week, but good enough to beat Carolina 38-20. He had 225 and a touchdown. Tyler Algiers ran for 105 and a touchdown for the Falcons. The Bengals, when they win, it's still ugly, man. They're not clicking. They're 2-4. The Giants are 2-4. The Giants have been competitive. I'm not going to hate on the Giants. They're not that bad this year. They're really not. They were competitive in this game all the way up till the end until the Bengals put it away with a late touchdown. Joe Burrow, solid, not necessarily great, but 19 for 28, 208. Hey, Daniel Jones ran 11 times, 56 yards for the Giants. Monday Night Football last night, 2 teams that I wish both could have lost as a Miami Dolphin fan. I do not like the Buffalo Bills. I do not like the New York Jets. The Bills won 23-20 in this game. Aaron Rodgers, again, struggling. Big interception at the end. He was not bad, though. 23 of 35, 294, 2 touchdowns. Interception at the end. He sort of threw Mike Williams under the bus for not running a good route. And today, Mike Williams is on the trade block, and they got Devontae Adams. So that was breaking news. I'm sure you probably already heard that Jets have Devontae Williams. The Buffalo Bills got Amari Cooper from Cleveland. So both of those teams are looking to get better right there. 23-20. Bills win the game. Kickers wreak havoc. Jets kicker missed 2 field goals. Bills kicker missed 1. So, yeah, not great either way for the kicking game, but still a good football game, still a good week of sports. So you're going to see me later in the week, maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after tomorrow. We'll do a top 25 and a preview of the college games coming up, and we'll also do an NFL preview of the games coming up. So as always, remember, it's peace in sports, and I'll see y'all later.